we respectfully ask that you to turn off the sound of your cell phones. And may I remind you, anyone wishing to address the board, that they must have already completed a public comment card before the start of this public portion of tonight's meeting, indicating the agenda item or topic about which they wish to speak. As your Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals for the district, listen to reports presented by the superintendent and his designees, approve and review the budget, approve certain personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. Management is responsibility of the superintendent. It's the board's responsibility to govern the affairs of the district and ensure that the district is moving forward in meeting the vision and the goals that we have set on an annual basis. Meeting times for board meetings are posted on the AISD website. That's at AbileneISD.org, and the public is invited to attend. At this time, I would like to invite Allison Sims. She's the Associate Superintendent for Development of Human Resources. She will be leading us in our invocation and pledges. Thank you.
Just pray with me, please. Father, thank you for the gift of education in our community. As we gather here today, we ask for wisdom and clarity in our discussions, and we ask that we seek understanding and solutions that honor the needs of all of our community. May we honor you by having open hearts and minds, approaching each other in a spirit of unity, respect, and understanding. Help us be ever mindful of our purpose in serving our students, families, and educators. Let peace guide our words and let courage guide our actions so that we may find a path forward that reflects integrity and hope. Thank you, God, for the blessing of coming together in service to our community. May we leave this meeting having made a positive difference. In Jesus' name, amen. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. We'll now move to item 4C, Board Superintendent Announcements. Dr. Kuhn?
Yeah, I have a couple of brags this evening that I'd like to share with you. The first one is coming from Candace Greenwelge, who's our Student Nutrition Director, and I just want to read to you what she shared with me back in November. She said, I would like to brag on my staff and the staff of Madison, including the principal and teachers. I had the privilege today of being asked by Micheline Hawley, who is the manager of the Madison cafeteria, to come by and see something they were working on. When I got to the campus, I saw an inventory of food, which was not ours, but product donated for Thanksgiving meals. Micheline and the Madison staff for years have taken up food donations to supply families with Thanksgiving meals. She wanted to show me how the program has grown. Micheline began the program years ago when she realized her staff could not afford to have a Thanksgiving meal. Today, the program has grown to include communities of Abilene, local churches, and the staff of Madison who donate their time for free to build and hand out the boxes. This group of heroes will hand out between 75 and 100 Thanksgiving meals to students' families on November 21st and November 22nd. I was so touched by their generosity and love for this community, I had to share with you my story of hidden heroes who walk among us and the love and care they show to our community. This is why I choose Abilene ISD. So I thought that was a great brag, and I want to share that with y'all. And then I have one other one. This is a paper that was written by a student at Cooper High School and shared with staff there, and the Cooper principal shared this with me, and I just wanted to read this to the board as well. The student writes, this is an anonymous student, so I can't tell you the student's name. It says, a serious issue in school districts is not the teachers, it is not the education we as students are provided, it's not the students or the staff or anyone in the school actually, but it's a problem that associates with the school, a problem the school could have prevented, a major issue that could have saved my life or others in the American school system. What is the issue actually is the home provided by parents for some of these children. Unfortunately, we as children cannot choose our homes or our family lifestyles as much as I would love to live with Beyonce and Blue Ivy. We cannot choose our parents. Coming from a troubled home where I'm only 17 but have been kicked out of my home more times than I can remember, I understand what it's like to be so stressed and find the only peaceful place I can be is school. Even when it's finals time, I've found working hard in class and also on the field brings peace. You know, even though I might not get to actually be okay, at least I'm passing. That's what my mindset has been my whole life. Having a place called Cooper High School feel like home because the people and friends I see, the staff every morning, not knowing what I went through the night before, but being happy to greet me and say hello. It made me feel safe and at peace. I can't say it made me feel at home, although the comfort that those words mean I would say it. School was nothing like home. At home there was fighting and arguing all the way till I was in middle school. My parents decided to separate finally. I thought my life would be at peace. I thought all the problems would end. Unfortunately, the at-home problems never stopped. The more I was at home, the more stressed, the more I would become sick, the more I had to stay home. Although it may have sounded fun to others to have to stay home, that sounds amazing. I have a medical condition, which means when I brush or style my hair, the nerves become stimulated and cause me to faint and sometimes have a seizure. The medical condition is not given through DNA. Unfortunately, I would have loved for it to have been that way, but it was given to me by my mother when I was 8. She would physically abuse me and hit my head or pull my hair when she would do it in the morning for school. And when I say it was bad, it was pretty hard. She damaged the nerves on the top of my scalp to the point where they were almost dead. There's no cure, any medication, just a pat on the back and a good luck sticker from the doctors. I still love my mother. What else could I have done besides speak out, ruin my family, have her and my father put in jail? What child would want that? And then I'm going to stop there because the last paragraph cuts off in the middle, but I wanted to share with you some of the struggles that some of our students deal with and how they find a home at school. So I just thought that was very heartfelt and honest from a student, and I wanted to share that with you. The last thing I have before we watch our Teaching Minute video is I would like to introduce Jordan Zemer to come up and talk about a very special staff member, April Brannon.
Okay, good evening, President Wiley, Dr. Kuhn, and members of the board. You've given us the opportunity to celebrate teachers when they're selected to participate in statewide committees with the Texas Education Agency. This is a great honor when we have teachers who are selected to do this because of the quality of their instruction, and it gives Abilene IC an opportunity to be at the table in those committees and in those rooms when the TEA is deciding on really important things to our business like the STAR assessment. So April Brand is a third grade teacher at Stafford Elementary. We're here to celebrate her with you for a second here tonight. She was selected to participate in a range finding meeting with the Texas Education Agency, and I believe she just did that on December 2nd or 3rd in that range. So I'm going to read to you because I am the wrong person to tell you off the cuff what range finding means. I'm going to read to you from their email about the honor that she was selected to participate in, and then we'll have her principal just share a word about her and we'll take a quick photo. But thank you for giving us an opportunity. So here's what the TEA said to us when they selected Mrs. Brandon. The purpose of the range finding meeting is to review student responses with proposed scores at each score point and determine their suitability to serve as anchor responses for the scoring of the 2025 spring administration of STAR. Anchors are examples of student responses that exemplify the attributes of a certain score level. They anchor performance expectations, clarify the rubric, and further define the range that exists within each score point. Your feedback, that would be Mrs. Brandon's feedback, on the constructed responses is integral to the creation of the training material for the raters working on the upcoming administration of STAR. So Mrs. Brandon got to participate in an extremely foundational process for helping develop the 2025 Spring STAR Assessment, and I just think that it is awesome for us to get an opportunity to pause for a second and recognize her for being in that room, representing Abilene ISD and getting to participate in the construction of that exam and those assessments. So I'm going to turn it over to her principal, who knows her better than me, just to say a quick word.
Hi. Like Dr. Zemer said, April Brannon is a third grade teacher at Stafford. She's taught 19 years, and this is year 4 at Stafford. She invests so much of her time into our students and cares so deeply about their success. And you know, I don't know many people that would spend time writing an application to serve on this committee, to spend time away from their family, to write sub-plans for their students, to then travel to Austin to then be on this committee. So we are so thankful for Ms. Brannon and teachers like her that care this much about our students and their success. And it's a learning experience for them too, because they realize how our students are scored on different things so that they can adjust their instruction to meet their needs. So I'm so thankful that April works in our district and serves our students. So thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for serving.
April, thank you. It's been wonderful to see you do this.
Okay, thank you.
Now we're ready for the teaching minute video.
Yes, very exciting. At this time, we do have a teaching minute, and those of you who have kind of new to the scene, we have started highlighting what is actually going on in the classrooms. You don't get to hear this in the news, so we're going to do it ourselves, and this is what we have for you tonight.
What is happening? My name is Kylie Zonker, and I teach 7th grade honors math at Madison Middle School. We've been building up to these 2 TEKs for the past 4 or 5 weeks. 8.4C, the student applies mathematical process standards to explain proportional and non-proportional relationships involving slope. The student is expected to use data from a table or graph to determine the rate of change or slope and y-intercept in mathematical and real-world problems. So, in your partner groups today, what you will do is very similar to yesterday. You have 4 functions presented to you, and in those functions, you are going to find the slope or find that rate of change. The focus of this is taking that rate of change, and with those 4 functions, you're going to sort them from least to greatest. So we started by multiple weeks ago addressing the 7th grade level of slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. And now over the past 2 or 3 weeks, we've been building up to really emphasizing finding the rate of change and addressing how that represents the steepness on graphs or how that looks at tables with your y values and your x values changing. If we want to talk about this in money, since we did have a money problem, this would be like losing $1 every hour. This would be losing 25 cents every hour. Which one are you losing more, the dollar or the quarter? Dollar. Right. So today we took those multiple representations of those lines, of those linear relationships, and we sorted their slopes and their steepness is what we call it as well, to see which one had the largest rate of change, the least rate of change, and just compared and contrasted all of these different formats of slope-intercept form. I see most of our room put, about half of you put A as the least rate of change. What was the slope of A? Negative what? -1. My whole goal is to really break down the concepts with hands-on activities. But I would use this visual in Desmos. Zoom in as much as you need to zoom in. Desmos is such a powerful tool because you're not just getting the equation or the table, you're seeing everything tie together. You can take that table, plug it into Desmos, and see a visual of what we're talking about. That way when they leave me for Algebra 1, they have a very solid understanding of linear relationships.
Thank you. Thank you to our communications team for picking those out and giving them to us each month. Next, we're going to move on to item 5, recognitions. Mrs. Brady Sloan Duncan, our Fine Arts Coordinator, is up first. She'll be talking to us about the TAEA District of Distinction we have earned.
Yes. Right. Hello, everybody. I'm Brady Sloan Duncan, Fine Arts Coordinator, and it is always a pleasure and a treat to recognize outstanding achievements in Abilene ISD Fine Arts with you. I'm thrilled to discuss the Texas Art Education Association's Recognition Award Program District of Distinction. The District of Distinction program involves completing a rigorous 14-point rubric of criteria so that school districts can showcase their work in visual arts education in a well-rounded way. For the 4th year in a row, Abilene ISD was awarded and named a District of Distinction in the Visual Arts. We officially received the recognition during TAEA at the TAEA Fall Conference General Session in November in Galveston. I'm thrilled to share this award with you now, especially since it's our 4th year, and include a few details about what makes our 30 visual arts teachers and over 9,000 art students in this district so incredible. Our art educators participate in multiple exhibitions and events throughout the school year, resulting in dozens of opportunities to view student work. Our district competed at all 3 levels in the visual arts scholastic events, which are similar to the UIL academic event, but with artworks and presentations about content, so they actually have to speak about their work in the contests. Students and teachers participated in over 100 hours of art-related community service projects, multiple field experiences, and worked with colleagues to create cross-curricular learning opportunities. TAEA membership and participation is extremely important for the success of our educators, as it connects them with experts in their field to share techniques, innovative practices, provide leadership opportunities, and more. All of our secondary teachers are members, and over half of our elementary teachers are members of TAEA. Our art teachers are not only talented and dedicated, they change the lives of students, peers, and our community for the better by sharing their gifts. I am so proud of the tenacity of our visual arts educators, and the Fine Arts Department appreciates the support from our district leaders and school board. These things are what I'm honored to say make Abilene ISD a district of distinction in the visual arts. Thank you.
And you're going to just stay right there, but I'm going to draw a line so that we realize we have also have another recognition in our district. The TAE Principal of the Year, and Ms. Sloan Duncan is going to tell us about that now.
Yes, and now I'd like to invite Abilene High Principal Amy Seibert up. Okay. So for the second recognition that I get to share today, every year at the statewide conference, the Texas Art Education Association celebrates outstanding art educators and contributors to art education in the state of Texas individually. As I've mentioned, TAEA is an incredible organization that helps visual arts educators learn, grow, and succeed across the state of Texas. TAEA's annual awards program was created to recognize excellence among members of the TAEA organization and support individuals who deliberately provide quality art education consistently in Texas. One award in particular recognizes non-TAEA members. The TAEA School Principal of the Year Award recognizes principals who have demonstrated unusual support for visual arts education. I like the way that they say that. This school year, our very own principal, Emmy Seibert of Abilene High, received the TAEA Principal of the Year Award for the state of Texas. Emmy Seibert is determined to offer quality programming to our students and ensure they have adequate supplies. She is never afraid to reach out to our department for clarification regarding equipment, supplies, or best practices. Allow me to share a few specific examples of what makes Emmy stand out. When a student had artwork invited to a state-level exhibition in Austin, Texas, she found a way to send the student and her fellow students in the class on a field trip to celebrate her and view the exhibition. Another example is understanding the hard work of her AP Art students. Last year, when a student's portfolio, which at that time was holding an entire year's worth of artwork, was mistakenly thrown away, she watched the cameras to determine its location, found it, and dumpster dove herself to retrieve the work. And it was all saved and usable and fine. Wow. When asked why art is important in schools, Emmy stated, "Art education in schools is crucial as it nurtures creativity, fosters critical thinking, and cultivates empathy, all essential skills for navigating a complex and diverse world. It allows students to portray the world through their lens and allows a window into their perspective on life." Emmy loves the passion of the art teachers at Abilene High. She feels their personal work and love, and their love to create, is evident in the product that the students produce. While she does not consider herself an artist, she has enjoyed learning about art throughout her life and has an affinity for Impressionist paintings. We are so fortunate to have Emmy Seibert as principal of Abilene High and are thrilled to celebrate her award. She officially received it at the TAEA Fall Conference General Session in November in Galveston. Please join me in congratulating Principal Seibert. So now we're going to take a picture.
Congratulations.
Thank you for going after that kid's work. That's amazing.
No, can I get you a dumpster award or something?
That's above and beyond. Thank you for doing that.
I know.
All right, everybody squeeze in the back there. There we go. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Congratulations, Ms. Seibert.
We'll now move on to item 6, oral communication from the public. The board encourages comments about the district from members of the public. Anyone wishing to address the board must have completed a public comment card before the start of the public portion of tonight's meeting, indicating the agenda or topic about which they wish to speak. Oral communication from the public is governed by AISD policy BED local, and under the Texas Open Meetings Act, the board is not permitted to discuss or act upon any issues that aren't posted on the agenda. A speaker will be given up to 5 minutes to address the board, but if the total number of speakers seeking to address the board at any meeting exceeds 5, then the limit may be reduced. In no event will a speaker be given less than 1 minute to address the board. Tonight, we do have 8 speakers, so we will be adjusting the time limit to 4 minutes apiece. Dr. Kuhn will have the time monitoring apparatus, so I'm going to let him give you a little bit of a rundown on how that works.
So you'll see at the podium a timer, and when you start talking, I'll hit the start button and it will start counting down. When it gets to 0, it'll turn red and you'll know you're out of time.
Okay. It'll be set at 4. That's you. Okay. Next, first up, Pastor James Moore. Will you join us? Oh, yes. Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
All right. Claudia, you can come up here. All right. Good evening. I'm Andrew Pence, Senior Pastor of the Valley View Missionary Baptist Church in the city. To our superintendent, school board members, we're grateful and thankful for the opportunity to come before you again to speak on behalf of the Woodson Elementary School properties. There were several things that we were asked to do from the last meeting, and we have completed each of those items. And we have made notes and also have documentations of those things that were asked for us to do. I do ask tonight that we would be prayerful for Dee Moore, who's the president of the Abilene Black Chamber. She had surgery, not able to be here tonight. Anthony Williams was with his mother, who's also in the hospital, and we asked him to stay with her and be supportive of that. But as we have come tonight, we have completed basically all the things that were required to secure a physical agent, and the physical agent from the Abilene Black Chamber has consented to be the physical agent of this project. We have submitted the proposal, and I'm sure y'all have reviewed the proposal. We have secured and have a financial consultant. Mrs. Linda Gray, senior consultant, lives in Dallas, Texas. She had a prior engagement, so she was not able to be here tonight. Also, we have identified the financial sources, and several that we have underlined and have in our package tonight, and especially to highlight some of the fundings that could be secured through the school board. And if that's possible, because we are unable to apply for those fundings, it would have to be through the school board. So we ask that you would consider that, and we have highlighted that. And then also we have in works the private sectors on securing funds from the private foundations and other nonprofits. We have petitioned and reached out to various churches, and several have sent in support letters in agreement to have us support. And then also we have other nonprofits that we have reached out to, and we will have efforts to work together to complete this project. We've been working very diligently. I have a committee that has been untiring, workingly on a daily and weekly basis to make sure that we are ready to go forward with this project. I do believe that we are ready. I have here with me several that are expertise in knowledge of what we're to do, and they keep me abreast, and also the other committees that are at work. And we just believe that this project would be a success. And I think if we work along with school board works with us, then we'll be able to fully renovate that school, get it back up, and it will be a positive in the community as well as in the city of Abilene, Texas.
Reverend Pence, thank you so much for your presentation during public comment. I would ask you and your team to stick around. We do have an item on the agenda for consideration later, and we may have some questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, also, if there is any more comment toward beyond the recommendation, I have Claudie Brown.
He's part of the team.
Okay.
We're all part of the team.
Then you get to hang out with us a few more
Yes.
minutes, and we'll look forward to speaking with you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank
We're
you.
grateful that you're here. It is an exciting part of our agenda later to come. Ryan Goodwin.
Well, I was hoping I'd be one of the ones that came up a little later, but I'm Ryan Goodwin. I have kids at Ortiz Elementary, and so basically what I was up here is for 10B and the Bluebonnet literature, the curriculum coming forward, and I just wanted to encourage us that I know there's been a lot of noise about the Christian part of it, and there's being some Christian aspects, but that's a lot of our foundation. And as superintendent brings it forward and teachers bring it forward, that's what I'd like for us to do, is put the best curriculum forward for our children. And so I know there's Christian stuff in there that gets on people's nerves, but from what I understand, it's optional to teach that you can do that. So what I'd like to see us do is put that forward, put the best curriculum forward for our children. And so I'm excited to hear about it and to see you guys to vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Goodwin. Heather Goodwin? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm also speaking on behalf of the same agenda item, 10B. I am speaking as a mother of 2 students, also as an educator at Ortiz Elementary. I work in the bilingual program. I have also served on the Strong Foundations Planning Committee that has been working since July to discuss what literacy instruction looks like in our district, to put forward a vision and a mission for what that would look like. In the course of our work as a committee, we had the opportunity to go visit a school in Crowley ISD that is utilizing the Bluebonnet curriculum. And I think I can speak on behalf of my other colleagues that attended that we were quite impressed with the curriculum, with the results that district is experiencing. We got to hear firsthand from educators that are implementing that curriculum in year 3. We also got to hear firsthand from students who have been experiencing that curriculum. One thing that impressed me in particular is the students were asked, well, what unit of study have you enjoyed the most? And those students lit up in telling us things they learned about the Renaissance and other things that are not necessarily addressed in our TEKS specifically, but when you study those things in the course of a language arts curriculum, the students were engaged, they were excited about learning, they were critically thinking about complex text. So I was very impressed with that. I also, speaking on behalf of the bilingual department specifically, I know that we have struggled at times in obtaining resources for our bilingual students in Spanish, that sometimes it requires us as teachers to go hunting for things, which is a good text that can help me teach this TEK. And the adoption of the Bluebonnet learning curriculum would take that work off of our shoulders because it would be provided in the whole of this curriculum. And so that's what excites me about the possibility of implementing this curriculum, is that it would become more equitable for our Spanish-speaking students, that they would have access to the same complex grade level text that their English-speaking peers are using. So I would encourage the board to approve us to apply for this grant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lauren Arnott. Did I say that right? I'm sorry, I can't read. Aren't? Give me another chant. Aren't.
It's German, it's not your fault. Yes, ma'am, my name is Lauren Arndt, and I am also here speaking about the Bluebonnet Learning Curriculum. I have 2 children at Purcell Elementary in 1st grade and in 3rd grade. And from what I have seen from the curriculum, I don't believe that it is the right choice for our school district. Even if you do put aside what they are considering optional Christian teachings in it, which I don't believe that they are from everything that I have seen, the way that the reading is structured, the way that the science, the history is structured, I don't believe is beneficial. Mostly because what I have seen is it cuts the time that it gives our children to read independently almost in half in favor of these cultural studies and cultural lessons that they believe are important. We know overwhelmingly that children do not learn to read by being read to. It's certainly a great tool for their vocabulary. I'm a librarian. I love reading. I love reading to children. Those children are not learning how to read by being talked at. They need time to do these guided readings. They need time to be able to read whole chapter books with their classes. And they would not be getting as much time to do that from everything that I have seen from it. More importantly, the way that they structure the history and the social studies parts of it, they're saying that these things are optional in it. It is not in the way that the curriculum is written. And it's our responsibility, our duty as educators to make sure that our children are getting very well-rounded, very non-biased viewpoints of the world. And if we are telling kindergartners that these things are fact, they do not have the ability to know that we are saying that this is, well, these things are culturally relevant. And that's why we're talking today about King Solomon, because that's in the Kings and Queens chapter. In 2nd grade, they talk about Queen Esther, and they talk about the way that her struggles, that they are laments in religious protest. Well, that's from the Old Testament, and that's not how Judaism even defines any of those things. So it's really not a straightforward view of any of that anyways. But more importantly, even if you did say that you could take those things out, they shouldn't be an option anyways in public schooling. Do any of you know how many churches we have here in Abilene, Texas? Dr. Waldron, you're a numbers man? 211. We have 211. That's more than the traffic signs, than the traffic lights that we have. We only have 165 intersections. If they would like somewhere to go and have a religious education, there's plenty of opportunities. There's lots and lots and lots of places. Does anyone here believe that 100% of our student body is Christian? More importantly, that they are the same type of Christian? Because I know that we have lots of Jehovah's Witnesses, that we have plenty of Catholics who view and teach all of these things differently, and that it's not our job to give them that world viewpoint. And it's not anything that I would want my children learning in the schools. Just personally. And it's not what I believe would benefit the other students that I also teach. And also with the bilingual aspects of it, certainly with the Spanish, that's amazing. But I know that we have over 30 languages that are spoken here. And the ability to be able to explain what we are teaching to the children, to their parents, I think would be lost in translation quite a bit as well. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arndt. Got it. I think I got it. John Berry. Welcome. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I wasn't going to speak to this issue, but I must admit, I was so impressed with the teachers that have been recognized here. I am an attorney. I'm not here speaking as an attorney. I'm speaking for myself. But I am saying I was reminded why I became an attorney when I saw that math exercise for those students.
Yeah.
I have no idea what slope means other than I fell down one when I tried to ski once. So, but I will share why I came up here. And I came up because I thought maybe I could share something different than many people who might come up concerning the Bluebonnet issue. I had the opportunity during my career to learn a lot about religious liberty issues. And I spoke at Arizona State Bar Association, which was about as difficult an organization to talk to about faith as any you could want to find if you talk to lawyers about it, and concerns about whether or not you're too religious in this direction or that direction. And why I'm here is that when I was there, I have my own faith, but I spoke there about the importance of the fact that our students eventually get an opportunity to be able to think for themselves. And I believe this Bluebonnet information is not an indoctrination. It's an opportunity under an academic model that allows students at the very beginning to start seeing various things. One of your very own new members wrote a beautiful letter, I thought, explaining that there are various things in this educational model. It's not just Christian, it's not just Jewish. In fact, we have a whole audience here of different viewpoints. And the students have an opportunity to be able to be exposed to different things. As a lawyer, I saw too many lawyers by the time they became lawyers in our society right now who had a lot of information, but they didn't know how to think about the issues that came before them. So the point that I would make with you is that I am completely in agreement with Blair Schroeder's letter. I would ask you to give great thought to that letter. One of the things he talked about is a classic model of education. It's about character development. Character development is looking at various options available. Yes, we have 200 churches, but some of the most influence we have over our students are while they're in school. We know that many people don't go to the church, or they'll go there once a week, but they have an opportunity to be exposed to great teachers like we heard, to be able to see and to think creatively. And Blair Schroeder's thoughts about that matter, the critical thinking. That critical thinking includes all models. And I made a statement when I was at the Arizona Bar, and I said, many times people throw up fears of what students might be exposed to. I fear what they're not exposed to. There should not be an exclusion for Muslim thought or atheist thought or Christian thought, particularly in the circumstances of Bluebonnet. This isn't a theological study. It's a study of character development, the prodigal son, how we're supposed to be able to treat people in the golden rule. So I would argue that this opportunity in Abilene, Texas, is to give our students an exposure that's very, very important to them. So this is an exposure of classical work. What's more classical than something that's been in our society since our very formation? Our very formation, not a theocracy. We're not forced in this country to be a Christian or a Jew or atheistic, but we are.
Mr. Berry, that is time.
Thank you very much. We have an opportunity to be exposed to all values. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Lastly, Tammy Fogel, please join us. And thank you for being here.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Kuhn. I'm so excited to be here tonight because I've been tracking with this since early summer, and I've actually been to the State Board of Education to testify on this material because I found it so intriguing to me. I'm actually an educator, elementary educator with specialization in reading, and so I have a little bit more desire to understand things like this because I work with students in reading, and it was really neat to get to see the process, and I got to see what a lot of people had concerns and fears over this program or these instructional materials. And so I feel like I bring something a little different to the table. I feel like there's like 3 things that, or maybe 4 if I can get to it, 3 things that I think we should focus on when thinking of allowing them to apply for this grant so that we can adopt this material. And by the way, bravo for moving so fast. I mean, like I felt like I just got back for them approving it to y'all are hitting the floor running. And so that's awesome. The teachers who piloted this, like Ms. Goodwin said, they are enjoying success in their classrooms like they've not seen in a long time. The students are happier, they're reading at a faster rate, they're learning. It's easier for the teachers to be able to use the unit-based studies, there's scripts to help younger or newer teachers along, but there's freedom to navigate through as you get more comfortable with material. And it's reduced a lot of the prep work that a lot of teachers struggle with because of having to find all these resources. The second point is there's a lot of confusion because the Bible is included. But actually, this is used as a teaching text. It's not as a religious instruction. And so it's totally appropriate in the nation whose #1 resource text for the founding documents is the Bible. In fact, Deuteronomy is quoted more often than any other book in our founding documents. This is not a church or a Sunday school lesson, but it's a teaching foundation of the concepts of our nation's history and laws, because there's 300 different colloquialisms that we use in day-to-day language that they're sourced from the Bible, so it's important for the students to understand where these stories come from, or these phrases. #3, it does not have any conflict with separation of church and state. There were so many lawyers coming to talk about how this does not violate the Establishment Clause. So there's no conflict there, even though there's a perception because it's been so absent since the Bible was removed from schools in the 1960s. And the last thing I wanted to say is that there's a lot of, I haven't heard in Abilene any opposition, but even tonight there was some discussion about how it doesn't feel like it's appropriate for our schools. But I think these 3 points reveal that there's a lack of foundation in understanding what our nation was founded on, and this is bringing back into perspective an ability to understand the historic significance of the Bible, of these historic texts, these stories that are influential. I mean, we have Good Samaritan laws. Where does that story come from? It comes from the Bible. And so I just want to encourage you to go ahead and adopt this and apply for this grant so y'all can adopt this instructional material so that our students can start reaping the benefits of having happier, better experiences in the classroom, learning to read easy, and the continuity between the years was also a perk that a lot of the teachers talked about. But again, I'm so excited to be able to stand here and talk about this because I think while not everyone goes to church, 100% of our students are actually members of the great nation that we live in, and they need to understand why our nation functions, why it exists, and why it works so well. And I believe Bluebonnet is the beginning, not the end all, but the beginning of helping restore that back into our public schools. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public comment. I do appreciate everyone being here and for politely putting out your opinions and focusing on the good of the students in our city. We'll now move on to item 7, our public hearing for the 23-24 Financial Accountability Rating System of Texas, otherwise known as School First. It is we have here with us just Ms. Jennifer Hines. She's our Executive Director for Finance. Do we open the public hearing now, or do you have something to say first?
Yes, ma'am, you can open it.
Okay. We are having a public hearing on this as required. The public hearing is now open, and the time is 7:19. Jennifer.
All right, thank you. Good evening. We're going to talk about, this is an annual report that is a rating system put out by the state. So it's the time of year to go over. I do want to just make sure and clarify, the rating we're talking about now is based on the fiscal year 23 data, so it always lags a year. So I want to make sure to mention that first. So the School First is the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. It's all about financial accountability. How schools are held accountable for their management practices, and also providing a look back to if there's ways they can improve, areas they can improve. So it really boils down to making sure accountability is happening, and then also, making sure you're managing the financial resources as best you can for instructional purposes. So School First has a few requirements. Hold a public hearing, which we're doing now, advertise the public hearing, distribute the first report, and then also explain the rankings and any special circumstances that impacted our scoring. The primary data sources for the first rating are the PEIMS reports that go in, that stands for Public Education Information management system. So that includes a lot of data, financial and student counts, enrollment, things like that. And then also our annual financial statement or our annual audit. So this year is the 22nd year for the School First report. And this year we received an A or a superior achievement rating. This was our 14th year in a row to receive an A. So that is great news. And I think really speaks to the maybe stability of the financial system here in the district. So we scored 90 points out of 100. And we're going to go through what makes up that 90 points. So if you have questions, feel free. There's 21 indicators total, and we were awarded full points for 18 of those. The indicators where we received full points are really revolving around the clean, unmodified, timely audit submission. So not only did we receive a clean audit, but it was submitted to the state timely. Timely payments of debt and TRS payments, so our bond payments were paid timely, as well as payments into a teacher retirement system. Fund balance and cash on hand, there are a few indicators revolving around those items. Budget and federal program management, and then also debt per $100 assessed property value. I want to make sure and point that one out. That was an improvement from the prior year. We scored 8 points in the previous year, and this year we had 10 points. So really that speaks to our values have continued to rise, so it offsets our debt. So it's a good thing that we've scored full points on. There were 3 indicators that we had reduced points for, and they all really revolve around assets to liabilities, and then we're going to talk about the administrative cost ratio. These 3 are the same 3 indicators that we had reduced points for in the previous year, so really no big changes. The first is indicator 8, and it was the measure of current assets to current liabilities ratio for the district sufficient to cover short-term debt. So it's really just a pretty simple formula, taking our current assets divided by our current liabilities and seeing where you fall on their point scale based on your ratio. So I do want to point out our mathematical breakout was 1.979. So we are right on the cusp of moving up to the next point tier. So this year we were awarded 4 points, but we're extremely close to 6. The next indicator is indicator 11, and it is revolving around long-term liabilities and total assets, but also compared to your student enrollment. So this is a very complex indicator, and it's equivalent of asking if your mortgage exceeds the property value or the market value of your home. That's kind of what this breaks down to. So because we're in a climate where our enrollment has declined, so our market value has declined, it wants to make sure, this indicator is making sure we can remain stable as our enrollment declines. So once the math works out, again, we are very close on the cusp of, we were awarded 8 points, but we're very close to a 10. But I do want to point out that the ratio increased from the prior year, so it's an improvement. And then also, one way to make sure this is moving in the right direction is really stabilizing those assets and liabilities, not incurring a lot of new debt, to make sure we're just really staying steady, that we can afford where we are. And then indicator test number 13 is the last indicator. We scored 8 out of 10 points. And this has to do with the administrative cost ratio. So you hear that, and a lot of people, you probably think the administration building, and that's not what this is about. It's about the administration of the entire district. So it includes many functions, many funds, and is really overall district and campus administration, as well as instructional leadership. So it's really a ratio based on Those total costs that you figure in, the state tells you what you can use for this ratio versus ADA. So keep in mind, ADA is also playing a role in this. You know, we're on the lower end of the ratio. So again, we're very close to being at the next point here. And this ratio, just like the others, improved this year. So we're headed in the right direction. And that is all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
So this also invites the public who wish to address the board regarding the 23-24 financial accountability rating system, which basically means Jennifer. She'll have the answers to your questions. I did have a question on this group that does the assessment and the grading. Who exactly are they? Are they from the TEA, or are they a different group altogether?
It's TEA.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Well, it is a very unique language which Jennifer speaks well, and she's teaching us a very to learn and listen well. So we do appreciate you very much for all the work that the hard work that your team does.
Thank you.
There not being any more questions, team?
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Hearing none, we're going to close this public hearing, and the time is 7:28. Now we're going to move on to item number 8, which is consent agenda. AISD Board of Trustee meetings are preceded by an in-depth board workshop, and board workshops are held prior to our regular meetings. The purpose of the workshops of the board is to discuss items in preparation for potential consideration in the future. Meeting times for board meetings and workshop meetings are posted on the AISD website at AbileneISD.org. The public is invited to attend. Do we need to take anything off of the consent agenda per any board members' request? Well, then we will go ahead and take a motion to regard the items on the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do we have a second? That would be Rodney Goodman and Danny Wheat. Thank you. We'll now take a roll call vote. Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore?
Yes.
Angie Wiley? Yes. Blair Schrader? Absent. Cindy Earls?
Yes.
The motion passes in the 6-0. Thank you. Now the board will now move on to item 9. Our reports. Special Education Department report. Thank you very much. We have with us Ms. Terry Reese, Executive Director for Special Education. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you. I'm happy to share some SPED things and what's going on in the SPED world with you tonight. Let me start here. So the first thing just to remember is that for any student to be in special education, there is an eligibility criteria. And so they have to be evaluated through special education and then have a disability. And then that disability has to require that they need specially designed instruction. So it's really kind of two prongs, two things that have to happen. So sometimes we can have students that don't qualify after they're evaluated, and then sometimes there can be students that do have a disability but don't necessarily need the specially designed instruction. So there's kind of options to that. These are the disability categories that we have available for students to qualify under. And what you see there in red are the 4 areas that we have the most students. Our most prevalent disabilities are in those 4 areas. And so those are the ones that we see most frequently, and the others are not seen as frequently. And then I want you to note, on almost to the bottom where it says developmental delay, or it says new, that's actually a new category that's going to occur for us this year. And the non-categorical early childhood, which is a mouthful to say, is going to be no longer, and we're going to take up the developmental delay. NCEC was 3 through 5 years of age, and developmental delay gives us the ability to hold that one till 9, which is sometimes really good for students when we can't find something specific that they are really qualifying for. So IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, is our main law that regulates us. And the two most important things kind of coming out of that law are what we call FAPE, or Free and Appropriate Public Education, that must happen in our LRE, which is a least restricted environment. And so you can see there kind of a list. We have to have a continuum, what we call continuum of services. And you can kind of see there on that list how we move through that. We want students to be in the gen ed setting. We want them to hear that instruction, benefit from that instruction. And so that's where we start. And then if they need more support, then we move through those type of resources. And so it may be that they come out some for resource class. It may be that they receive other type of support. And so in your board book, you have some board docs that go through all the different types of settings that we have, and there's numbers in there and that type of thing for you all to look at, programs and that type of thing. So this is just kind of showing you the continual trend of special ed numbers, and you can see that our numbers continue to increase. The last 2 years there, you can see that data was pulled mid-November because my time to present changed. But you can see that we have continued increase, even though enrollment has gone down, special ed numbers have gone up. So obviously our percentage is going up as well. So we have 19.8% of students that are currently in special education. And so you can see that that trend continues. This is the list and the number of our special education teachers, how many we have in each of the different levels. Where it says other and it says across the curriculum, those are teachers like our VI teachers, our visually impaired teachers that go through to all grades, or our homebound teacher that goes across all grades, or our adaptive PE teacher that does the same thing. So that's what that category is. And then of course we have an assessment staff that does a lot of the testing for the students and the evaluation. And they play different roles. So our diagnosticians do a lot of the evaluation, as do our school psychologists. And again, in your board notes, you'll see that there's a long list of people that contribute to that. Our speech language pathologists are in there. Our OT and PT people do evaluations. And so you'll see that in there, that there's a lot of people that contribute to the assessment of a student for special education. This is our total number of referrals, which goes along with our total number that we have in special ed. You can see that last year, about this same time, we were at 326, and we're currently at 413. So our numbers do continue to go up, and we'll see where we end up at the end of the year. I think that people always ask me why are the numbers increasing so much, and I think it's a variety of things. There's a lot of reasons for that. The past couple of years, all dyslexia has now gone under special ed, so that was those were 504, so that have now moved in. That's changed some of that. A lot of times if we're seeing any type of behaviors, we evaluate those students to see if it's tied into their ability to learn. We have had an increase in referrals for autism. And then we also I think we just have more students with significant needs. So there's a lot of reasons. There's not one reason that I have. I want to visit with you about our cyclical review that we recently went through. So TEA, or Texas Education Agency, conducts a pretty comprehensive review every 6 years. And so this was our first year to go through the cyclical monitoring. It began in March, last March of 2024. It'll end this June in 2025. And they reviewed 26 student folders. And then they went through those folders in a variety of ways to make sure that we are meeting the requirements of IDEA. And they identify either a systemic errors, or they identify individual errors. And so these are the areas that were actually monitored and reviewed. The IEP side, that's there's the student's individual education plan. And so that's all the things that go into developing a plan, an appropriate plan for a student. And under each of those, then there could be up to 20 things that they look at. So that part is pretty comprehensive. And then the other things that were looked at are in the other column over there, and they did a full review of our dyslexia program, of our residential facilities that we have in town. A lot of our state reports that we do are results-driven accountability, our state performance plan. So it was very, very comprehensive, a review that we went through. And so I was pleased that when it was all said and done, as far as getting the results back, that there were only 2 areas that we had some areas that we needed to correct, and those were in some of our IEP development areas and then our transition. So out of all of those, it was only those 2 areas that we needed to go back. And so what we're doing right now is they've identified some areas for us, and then we're going back and holding ARDs, which is our ARD committee meetings, and we're correcting some of those errors. So those will all be corrected, and then in addition to that, we'll then have to send them an additional 18 folders for them to look at all of that to make sure that that is all being done in the new folders that are happening right now. So it's kind of an ongoing thing, but it'll be to the end when we reach there in the end of summer. It'll be our last submission. The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I saved this for the end because this is always the good part, is just some of the things that our students are out there doing in terms of the community and just enrichment activities. And the one I wanted to point out on this was in the 3rd column under sound wave where it says chime time. And Mr. Logan, who does the sound wave, and that's our bell choir that we see around. They are busy right now doing lots of Christmas type things. But he this year implemented chime time, and what he's doing is he's going to the middle school self-contained classrooms, and he's taking the bells and he's letting the kids play them and presenting some of that just to see what it's like, get them excited about then hopefully when they come to high school wanting to do that and wanting to join bell choir. And last but not least, this is our group of students from Mann Middle School that just recently went to the Special Olympics for bowling. And so they took all 17 of them. They got to go. They got to participate. And I wanted to read just this quick statement that one of their teachers, April Oboski, wrote me just a quick note to kind of tell me about it. And she said, we had such a great time. Thank you so much. Some of the girls were so overwhelmed with receiving a medal that they began to cry. It looked like Miss America contest. It was just beautiful to see the joy in the students. And so that's a great note for me to end on because that's really what special ed is all about. And I can answer any questions for you if y'all have any.
Would you help me remember the adults 18 plus where we service? What's that last age that they have to graduate?
Through 21. So
Okay.
if they're still 21 when the school year starts and they turn 22 that year, they can finish out that year.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Reese.
You bet.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 10, business items requiring board action. Item A is Woodson Elementary. Let me get over to this page. The board, Dr. Kuhn has some information for us on that, so you can have that.
Thank you, Madam President. So I've been involved in many conversations. Step right up, Reverend Penns, and anyone else who may have answers to any of these questions here. Been talking about what we call Woodson Elementary Early Childhood Campus, which is right here downtown, very close to us.
Yes.
Since I got here, and I think maybe since before I got here, this has been an item of conversation, what to do with that facility, along with we'd had some conversations about Fannin, which we listed for sale. And the main thing I would like to say is, Board, you have my recommendation in the board book in front of you, and that is that I recommend considering a donation conditional on one thing, and this is the one thing I want to make sure we have very clear, and that is we are a school district because our facilities were purchased with taxpayer dollars over the years. We are not allowed to donate those facilities to just anybody. We're allowed to donate to a public university. We're allowed to donate to a municipality. We're allowed to donate to a registered nonprofit. And so my understanding in the conversations we've been having is that your committee would partner with a registered nonprofit, and that would be the entity to which we would donate this property. And so that is my biggest question is, just to be 100% clear, what is the name of the nonprofit that would receive this donation if the board were to vote to donate the property?
The owner would be Interested Citizens of Abilene North, which is the acronym ICANN.
And they are a registered nonprofit,
Registered 501c3.
501c3, okay.
And we've been in operation 29, going on 30 years now.
All right. With that information, board, my recommendation will be that we donate this property, or my recommendation would be for the board to authorize me to enter into negotiations with representatives of the nonprofit to set aside the conditions that would benefit both sides of this equation. I interrupted you, and I apologize. Please continue.
No problem.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the board about this issue at this time?
As the question was asked, from the educational school board standpoint, several of the grants that we looked at and highlighted, I stated that only the school could apply for those fundings. And we're needing to know if we could get the school to work with us on getting those, some of those fundings. If not, we do have other sources we can go to.
The short answer to that is probably no. Grants available through the Texas Education Agency are generally awarded to local educational agencies, which is school districts and charter schools. So I'm not familiar with a way that a school district can work with TEA on receiving grants and then passing those along to another entity.
Well, good. Well, that was just a question that we needed to get cleared. There are other sources we're working with, and also local other nonprofits here that we're going to seek grants and application for fundings as well.
Yes, sir.
So we have a strategy plan. We have everything mapped out. This will help us to go forward, to hear the consent and the vote. We'll close the educational side of it, and then it will give us an opportunity to go ahead and start working even further with our financial advisor, as well as the Abilene Black Chamber, which will be our physical agent, and even our board with ICANN, Interested Citizens of Abilene North.
Well, I would like to take a moment before the board votes on this item to thank you, Reverend, and all the folks that have worked with you, the different organizations, people who've spent their time talking about this and working out a plan to present to my school board to find a way forward. I know a lot of time has gone into this. I know a lot of people are passionate about that facility and the history there, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of Abilene ISD for the work that has gone in. And if you guys don't have anything else to add, I'll ask y'all to return to your seats, and we'll continue the board discussion, unless the board has some questions for you gentlemen.
I would also like to commend your time and effort put in toward this. I know over the years the requirements for us to get to this point rested heavily on you and your group.
Yes.
So we appreciate letting us, for taking those steps so that we could have this conversation, and that is something we're very thrilled to get to do with you. And having this vote would mean that Dr. Kuhn would be speaking for us, and we will have communicated some of the things we desire, and he will have that authority to communicate that to you, and he will not misrepresent us in any way. So we are very confident in what's moving forward, and wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you so much. Let me commend my committee.
Yes.
I mean, it's that committee that has put all the efforts to make it possible. And I'm grateful for their choice of asking me to become the leader. I just didn't accept it. I had to be voted in. So that spoke volumes right there. And I'm grateful for the expertise that this committee has brought to the group and our further efforts. We're going to complete that project, and then we'll invite you all to come in to celebrate with us. How about that?
Thank you.
Thank God for you to others who have come to support us. The weather's cold. It gets dark earlier now, so many of the others were not able to come tonight. And then I think the Dallas Cowboys or somebody's playing, so.
I can't imagine
Thank
anybody
you
would
again.
miss a board meeting for that.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Is there a motion regarding Woodson Elementary?
I move to authorize the superintendent to negotiate with ICANN for the purposes of donating the AISD-owned property known as Woodson Elementary located at 520 North 9th Street, Abilene, Texas, 79601, with the expressed expectation of the board that the superintendent ensure the inclusion of deed restrictions limiting future uses of the building shall not be in conflict with the best interests of Abilene ISD perpetuity.
Thank you, Dr. Tidmore. Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Cindy, she's closest. And, but thank you.
Closest and loudest.
Thank you.
Always.
We'll now take a roll call vote. Taylor Tidmore,
Yes.
Bill Enriquez,
Yes.
Danny Wheat,
Yes.
Rodney Goodman,
Yes.
Cindy Earls,
Yes.
Blair Schrader, absent. Angie Wiley, yes. The motion passes 6-0.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Lots of smiles. We'll now move on to item B, Lasso Strong Foundations Implementation Grant. We're going to ask Ms. Patty Blue, Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, to help us through this.
Good evening. I'm throughout this going to acknowledge some folks because this took a lot more than just me to get this all put together. First of all, I want to recognize Dr. Karen Munoz. She's our Chief Innovation Officer. There
Stand
she
up.
is. Okay. And Karen has been putting in a lot of work working on all of our LASSO grants and several different things we have going on. So I want to make sure that we acknowledge and give her credit for her hard work. Just a few reminders to you about the System of Great Schools project that we are part of. Basically to really help us looking at problem solving, looking at different options, looking at does school have to keep looking like it looks, those sorts of things. So that is part of the process that we've been going through. Remind you that we do have a North Star goal, and our North Star goal is that by the end of the 28-29 school year, 75% of our students will be in an A or a B seat. And the A or B is based on the state accountability rating. At this time, we have 6% of our kids in an A or a B seat. So there are some mile markers here to show where we need to be every year in order to reach the 75% mark by our 28-29 goal. The process that LASSO takes us through is we look at quality seats analysis. We really look at how our schools are performing, the A and B issues. We look at what does our community want from us, and that has been happening through strategic footprint and pathways to possibilities. Then we look at ways that we can implement some new strategies to address the needs that we see. And then we continue to make plans and we execute those plans. The LASSO, which is Learning Acceleration Support Opportunities, and of course we make it another acronym in education, so it's LASSO. We are on cycle 3, and what TEA has done is they have started streamlining some of our grant opportunities and applications to make it easier to apply, to be honest. This year it opened on October 14th. It will close December 13th. There are a total of 11 grants in the LASSO grant possibilities this year. This evening, we're here to talk about Strong Foundations implementation. Out of the 11 grants, not all of them require school board approval for the application, but Strong Foundation implementation does require school board approval. That is because it involves a curriculum adoption as part of the grant, and that is something that the board has to approve. So, before we can talk really though about the Strong Foundation Implementation Grant, we need to review a little bit of the work that's already been going on this year with the Strong Foundation Planning Grant. The Strong Foundation Planning Grant and Implementation Grants, yes, are intended to be a continuum. However, they do not have to be a continuum. We can end after the planning and not apply for the implementation grant. If you look at the steps that are involved in this, we are in the pre-adoption, adoption. That is where we are. And so through this year, we have gone through these different pieces. We've looked at roadmaps of basically where are we and where do we want to go? How do we communicate with teachers? How do we learn? How do we make sure all of our teachers learn? And what do we want RLA instruction to look like? And we've developed a framework for that. And then we start planning for what instructional materials do we need. The emphasis this year so far has really been on looking at what does good reading language arts instruction look like in our classrooms. It hasn't been tied to specific materials. The planning grant does not include grant funds for purchasing materials. It's not tied to specific. It is based on what does solid reading language arts instruction look like in a classroom, regardless of what your resources are. Part of the planning grant, we've had a 50-member team that's a planning committee, Strong Foundation's planning committee. I believe some members might be here tonight. If y'all want to stand up so they can see who you are. And there's also a smaller group that's a Strong Foundation leadership team, and I believe some of those are here. And I will tell you that I want to make sure that Margaret Hope and Mandy Joyner are really recognized because those two ladies have really led the charge with this. Mandy's our elementary reading language arts, and Margaret is our secondary. And then, of course, I couldn't do it without my executive directors, Carrie Thornburg, Stephanie Jackson, and again, Karen Munoz helping with this project. So these ladies have really taken the lead this year on the planning project. Again, what our time has been spent on is looking at what does solid reading language arts instruction look like. And they have developed a framework that I'm going to share with you in a little bit. Whoop, there's the framework. I skipped the page. Sorry. And that's really, really little.
Yeah, don't go too fast on this.
I did print copies if that helps any. That I'd be more than happy. Joe, do you want to hand those to them if they want them? You can tell by just looking at how much is on the page that they put a lot of work into making decisions about what our beliefs are and looking at what our actions need to be. They've included multiple groups in making these decisions. We've also, through this process, been looking at our student achievement data because we want to make sure we know where our kids are. So, one of the pieces we have looked at is our reading scores. This is your reading scores 3rd through 8th grade and then English 1, English 2. You notice 4th grade and 7th grade writing, we ended up with X's because the state of Texas changed the test. Writing is now embedded in the reading. It's the reading language arts test and not just a reading test. The circles indicate when we are at or above the state average. Also, I had a concerned citizen call this week, and he asked about how we compared to other districts, and these are the districts that he specifically mentioned. So I pulled that data for you to just have that to see as well. This is on the Texas Academic Progress Report, which is the TAPER. Yes, another acronym. That is publicly available. The 24 report has not been released, but it is supposed to be out just pretty much any time now.
Could you quickly tell us of these schools, which ones have had experience with the Blue Bonnet?
Lubbock, I know, is piloting this year.
But this would not reflect
No,
that?
ma'am, it would not reflect it.
Okay.
Also this year, not necessarily part of this grant, but it is part of what's been happening in our district. We've had strategic footprint and pathway to possibility projects going as well. We've been listening to what does our community want for our schools. We've had community members, we've had parents, we've had all kinds of AISD employees involved in this process. One of the top topics that repeatedly is stressed that our parents and community want us to hold high academic standards for our students. Over and over again, that's what we heard. We also have a crew that I'm going to tell you, the cabinet, we look forward to this day. We have Ugly Christmas Sweater Day coming soon, and I can't imagine what this is going to be like. But we have 18 kids, 3 from each of our high schools that we meet together with them once a month. They're called the Super Crew. And we've had conversations with this group as well about what do you want to see in our schools? What do you think we've done a good job with? What do you think we haven't done a good job with? And the things that they bring out to us is we want more variety in academic classes, and we want more opportunities to start meeting our post-high school goals while we're still in high school. That, basically, they're saying dual credit, they're saying some of those industry-based certifications, those sorts of things is what they're telling us. So, if we're going to meet the expectations of the footprint planning, the pathways, the Super Crew, if we're going to meet those, then we have to make sure our students not only learn to read, but they know how to read to learn. And we talk about that a lot, that there's a shift that starts to happen about 2nd or 3rd grade. It's not just about, can you tell me what this word is on the page? Can you read these words and tell me what all of that together means? Can you critically think about what they're trying to say and apply it in a different situation? If we can't get our kids reading that way, they will have a difficult time doing higher academic tasks. They're going to have a harder time performing better and better on STAR tests. They're going to have a harder time being successful with dual credit classes. They're going to have a hard time passing industry-based certification tests. So we know that we need to do a better job of getting our kids to that point. Over the 23-24 and 24-25 school years, Region 14 also has conducted 4 Effective Schools Frameworks diagnostics for us. Those are required when we have campuses designated comprehensive and targeted. The average on those 4 is only 55% of our reading language arts assignments were considered high quality and on grade level. Teachers are asked to submit assignments that they will be giving students. And Region 14 takes those and they look at those and say, if you said it meets this TEAK, our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, does it really meet that TEAK? And if it meets that TEAK, is it at a high enough level? Does it really, if it's supposed to be 4th grade, is it really 4th grade? Only 55% of the assignments submitted on average reached that level. Through this process, we've also looked at the TEA designated high quality instructional materials, HQIM, can't leave the, can't leave that out. We've been looking for K-5 reading language arts. The 2 that are on the high quality list at this time are Savas and Bluebonnet. Abilene ISD started using Savas in 2019. We are currently still using Savas as our designated curriculum. Amplify, Bluebonnet. Amplify is what TEA started offering during COVID as an open education resource. What they have done is they have basically purchased it and taken it and turned it into the Texas version. It's kind of an easy, short way to try to explain what's happened. So, a lot of people use Amplify and Bluebonnet interchangeably. They're not really interchangeably, but they are very similar curriculum. Since the Bluebonnet was the newer thing to us, that was definitely what our committee spent more time looking at and analyzing. Part of the Foundation's planning grant is our teachers have also had the opportunity to go to learning labs where they've been able to observe where these high-quality instructional materials are being used in classrooms. There are a group of 17 elementary teachers and administrators that went to Crowley ISD There were 6 secondary teachers and administrators that went to Lubbock ISD, and there were also 17 elementary teachers that went to Lubbock to observe the Bluebonnet pilot that's occurring there. Here's their feedback about what they saw in the learning labs. They saw consistent curriculum and instruction across the campuses, engaged students asking relevant and thoughtful questions. They saw significant time spent on reading and writing tasks, lessons centered around complex text, and higher order questions asked by teachers and by students. Okay, so now let's move into talking about the implementation grant. The implementation grant is to implement high-quality instructional materials. We are looking to do that in English in the reading language arts. Bluebonnet is required as that curriculum for this grant. Part of the grant, it's very heavy on professional development for teachers, for instructional coaches, for school leaders, for campus administrators, and district leaders. That is one of the key pieces to this grant, is it gives you a lot of access to the professional development piece to make sure teachers, principals, everyone has as much support as we can possibly give them and how to implement this curriculum. The application must be approved by the board because it does involve curriculum adoption. So how much is the grant? Well, the base grant for the first 30 participants, and participants are basically your teachers, instructional coaches, those people. It's a $200,000 base. They then give you $3,000 per additional participant over that 30. Dr. Munoz and I have kind of put together, and Carrie Thornburg has kind of looked at this, and we think we're about 305 teachers, or participants, I should say, because coaches and ICs, those folks will be there. So that would make 275 additional. So that would be an estimated $825,000 for a total grant of $1,025,000. The grant requirements, 50% must go to an approved TEA provider for technical assistance. That was also a requirement under the planning grant. Our provider under the planning grant was Region 14, which I will tell you, Region 14 is extremely generous with us because they will agree with you that is a lot of money that they're getting. And so that is part of why working with them has been very beneficial for us, because they have been very generous with us and offered some services that were not necessarily tied to this because of the amount of money that we have been giving them. 20% of the grant has to go to salaries to employ additional support. So that would be looking at some dedicated instructional coaches. And what I mean by that, like their job would be to be the Bluebonnet coach. Not the Bluebonnet and the math, but the Bluebonnet coach. 30% is for other expenses. So print materials, which we wouldn't need to do that under this grant, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Well, a little bit we might. Digital license, assessment license, teacher stipends. If we need some other funding for more coaches, we could also use that last 30% to help pay for that. So there's a $60 amount that keeps getting talked about with people. That is the new way that textbook funding is going to be coming from the state. The model that we've had in the past is not going to continue to be the model of how we get our funding for our textbooks. They're moving to this high quality instructional materials model. There is a process that materials must go through for TEA, State Board of Education, to deem them as high quality instructional materials. If a resource becomes high quality instructional materials and you choose to use that in your district, then you will receive $40 per student. If it is also an open educational resource, which basically means it's all online and you can go get it and you can download and print it as much as you want to, they'll give you an additional $20 to help with the cost of printing. Bluebonnet RLA is an HQM and it is an OER. So for using Bluebonnet, we would receive the extra $60. Now, when I said a minute ago we might have to use some of the grant to buy print materials, the Spanish version will be available next year, but it will not have cleared HQIM, the stamp, yet. So we won't receive this extra $60. So the English versions will use this money, we could use this money to pay for them. The Spanish versions, we would use grant money to pay for them because they're not eligible for this money yet. TEA has indicated that that is their purpose for the next year is to get the Spanish version through the process. So for the 26-27 school year, the Spanish version would be considered HQIM and be eligible for this funding. Yes, AISD staff has identified some lessons that have biblical references. They are aiming to teach literature, not theology. The staff are continuing to look through lessons, making notes of religious references, biblical as well as other world religions. AISD would have the option to replace some of the reading selections in Bluebonnet. We couldn't just say anything religious we're replacing. We can't do that. But we could replace some of them. Lessons are based on the TEKS, which is what we are required by law to teach. And we are currently piloting Amplify in 2 grade levels at 1 campus. Information again about the Spanish version that will be available. Because Bluebonnet is specific to Texas, there are many references on it, especially how our Hispanic heritage has really helped with the development of Texas. They have emphasized those things. And we have even found out that in kindergarten, there's a reference to Dice Air Force Base. And in 5th grade, there's part of a story about John Dice himself. A little bit about what state law says, Texas Education Code. It does require that curriculum include religious literature, including the Hebrew scriptures, the Old Testament, and New Testament, and its impact on history and literature. Bluebonnet is part of a classical approach, which is it integrates the literature, sciences, arts, and history, and encourages students to have deeper understanding of how society changes over time. It is very big on trying to tie things together and that things are not taught in isolation. The holistic approach not only enriches student intellectual development, but also nurtures positive character traits and civic responsibility. There is another grant that would be available if we apply for Strong Foundations grant. It is a PLC grant. We have 8 campuses eligible, and that grant would be an estimated $225,000.
Is that total or per campus?
That is total.
Okay.
It focuses on building strong professional learning communities. One of the big things about Bluebonnet is it tries to take the load off teachers of actually having to go find the instructional materials and lets teachers spend their time learning what they're going to teach. So like really looking at, okay, if this is the lesson, what is it going to look like when I'm in front of kids? What kind of things do I want to make sure that I've asked the kids? What things do I expect them to do? But the teacher does what they call internalization. And that process happens through PLCs where they're having conversations about what they're teaching and getting ready for that and not looking for the matter that they're going to teach. So this is our recommendation. We recommend that you allow us to move forward with applying for the Strong Foundations Implementation Grant to implement the high-quality instructional material Bluebonnet in all of our elementary campuses. I do want to go ahead and tell you that there are some other grants that we are looking at. There's a technology lending grant. There are school action fund grants, both district and partner managed. None of those require approval from the board, only the Strong Foundations Implementation Grant. The technology grant provides lending of devices. And school action fund, their whole school strategies to increase high quality schools and meet the community needs and address chronic underperformance. So those would be some of our schools that seem to keep getting targeted and comprehensive and those sort of things that need a little bit more drastic support and help from us. So, do you have questions?
Is the $60, is that for just elementary students? students since this is K through 5, or is it for every student in the district?
My understanding is every student that is using high-quality instructional materials, which we do use some others in math, so we would get that funding as well for them. And some of those are at the middle school level, and I believe Algebra 1.
We're not going to look at the math side of Bluebonnet right now, or?
Not right now.
Just the
We've been
reading.
using Eureka. What am I doing? Oh. Yeah, we've been using Eureka already. One of the conversations we've had with Region 14 is the possibility that they could help us do a little bit of a reset with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. When you get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, that's generally where the teachers are departmentalized. So the teachers that are doing reading language arts would be different than the teachers that are teaching math. So we could do something with the math teachers and not be overwhelming them with the reading language arts curriculum at the same time. So we have had some conversations to look at that possibility, but we do already use that curriculum. But we do see some needs to work on the implementation piece of it, but a little more.
I had a question. So basically, when you outlined the money that we got, it's all designated on how it needs to be spent. So it's not money that goes into our pocket, but it is money that we don't have to spend of our own.
Yes, ma'am.
To get good things into the classroom.
Yes, ma'am.
Or to get supportive things into the
Yes, ma'am.
classroom for our teachers and then you answered that question. In the Spanish version, this first year, do you think there'll be some glitches that, since it's not ready for? Or is that minimal, or?
I think it'll be minimal. I think that what we saw going through the English version of the HQIM process for English were minimal kinds of things that needed to be addressed. So I really feel like that the Spanish version will be pretty well user ready, ready to go.
And when you talk about the technical assistant that we have to pay Region 14 for, what is an example of what they do for us?
What they've done with us with the planning grant, which we do not absolutely have to use them for the implementation, and I would want to make sure we go through all of our purchasing procedures to make sure that we're not violating anything, so I'm not going to guarantee it would be Region 14. I will tell you that we've been very successful with them under the planning grant, and it's lots of training, a lot of their folks being in our district, on our campuses, helping us coach teachers, a point that we can pick up the phone pretty much any time and call and ask questions if we're seeing some things that concern us, or if we're concerned, can we do this with the grant? Can we not do this with the grant? That kind of expertise.
Yeah.
I will tell you, boots on the ground in our classrooms with our teachers during training is the number one thing we're getting from them, and that's what we strongly need going forward.
Okay. Do you care if I read a little bit from the letter you sent us?
No, ma'am, that's fine.
Which helped me a lot. It was talking about we're currently using Savas, and apparently over 7 years it hasn't done a whole lot for us. In the current RLA plans, teachers must pull lessons from many resources, not just Savas, to create adequate daily plans. This is time-consuming and can be difficult for teachers who lack experience. And with teachers leaving the industry, we have a lot of alternatively certified teachers who are working on courses and a lot of other requirements, and they are also trying to make lesson plans that are requiring something besides what they're giving. So we're talking about searching the internet and other things to come up with the lesson plan. We see very different lessons in each classroom and across the district. Bluebonnet includes everything in one curriculum, which makes it easy for teachers from all different levels of experience. Teachers understand and internalize these lessons, but they don't have to write daily lesson plans, and it helps create consistency. And then it also aligns with everything that is supposed to. We had to purchase a phonics program because Savas didn't provide that, and that's included. We also have seen multiple problems. So when you see us having to choose between Savas, which obviously and Bluebonnet, that is what we're looking at. It's these two things to pick from. I had to check myself and leave my political self at the door and make this about education and students, and that is it. So I am not going anywhere besides the education and the pedagogy and the recommendation of the people that know what they're talking about. That's it, and I'm not going to have a conversation about anything else besides those things tonight. And anyway, anybody else?
Can you talk just a little bit about why Savas and Bluebonnet are the only two choices? They're the only two that are RLA that are considered highly qualified.
They're the only
high
two that
quality.
have cleared the process that TEA and the State Board of Education have put in place.
So if we were to adopt something that wasn't Savas or Bluebonnet, we would get zero in
You would
funding.
not get any of the additional, per student, any of the $40 or $20. Savas, you wouldn't get the $20, you would just get the $40.
Which doesn't mean there's not good curriculum out there.
Right.
Just hasn't been given the stamp of high quality from TEA.
From TEA.
So if we didn't adopt it, we lose the $60 per student, plus we lose the grant money, correct?
We lose access to applying for the grant money, which would basically mean that we're going to continue using Savas because that's what we have. Curriculum is pretty expensive when you go outside. I'm concerned because the data is telling me we need some pretty intensive professional development to help teachers based on what we're seeing. The financial situation we're in as a district, we don't have extra money. So trying to find the money to provide the training and those sorts of things. One of the things we could do with a grant is we could provide some summer stipends. So as we need to bring teachers in to train them and work with them over the summer, we can actually pay them with the grant. That's not something I can foresee us having the resources to be able to do without the grant.
And while I think it's perfectly appropriate to talk about the finances involved in this decision, I want to make sure everyone on the board understands that my recommendation has nothing to do with the grants or the money available. My recommendation has to do with what we feel like is in the best interest of pushing for higher academic performance among our student body.
We, the groups that have seen it and everything just have really, I've seen an excitement from teachers about it's like it's all there. Everything I know I should be doing for my kids is there and not having to go pull it and find it and those sorts of things.
I have I actually have lots of thoughts on this. I'm probably not going to share most of them tonight, but one, I hate that we even have to talk about money with this. You know, I hate that they're tying funds and grant monies to a curriculum that some people find controversial. In a state that hasn't increased public school funding since 2019, in a state that's currently 42nd out of 50 states in per student spending, despite ending this year with a $30 billion surplus, the fact that they're making districts who are strapped for cash, districts who are adopting a deficit budget, even have to think about finances when it comes to adopting a curriculum is disappointing from the state and my standpoint. Overall, it sounds like this curriculum has lots more benefits than it does negatives. I just hope that our curriculum team and our staff will be careful with those parts of the curriculum that some members of our community are uncomfortable with. So it's...
Well, and I will tell you, there's already been some instances, they weren't necessarily religious, but there was some, at least one especially comes to mind, that Mandy Joyner, in the pilot that we've got a couple of campuses doing with Amplify, they were like, we're not sure that's the best passage, and so they didn't use it. So we're already, that's part of why my team right now is still continuing to look at everything and to make notes. So we're aware of those things before they come up ahead, that if there's some things we're really concerned about. Another thing is the PLC process will be huge in us heading off any major controversy that may be coming. That's part of the internalization piece, is for them to really have looked through it and looked at it and thought through it before they get in front of kids to teach it. So that will be a really big piece for our teachers to help be aware of what might be out there.
And I do really appreciate the time that you and the whole curriculum team have put into this, because I know y'all have worked extremely hard we do need different results in this district, and so I think it's exciting to see a change that people are excited about and hopefully bring positive results to our kids. So,
I also have heard from both sides. Then there's parents who are very much not wanting this and will not want to have a part of it. So I have a question as far as some of the board members and some having a little bit of hesitancy and going back and forth and hopping the line more than once in making a decision. So if it turned out to be not what we envisioned, what would happen in a year if we said, we wish we need to do something different?
We would seek out what we need to do differently.
But it doesn't have an effect on the grant because it's a year-long grant.
Right. Exactly.
So
The grant's a year-long
if
grant.
we could have the patience of parents to give it a try along with us, to see how it goes, stick with us for a year. And I'm speaking to everyone now that stick with us for a year on this. Give us an opportunity to support our administrators and our teachers and see where this goes in hopes that we see this travel up with these K through 5 kids into middle school, and we'll see differences in
Yes,
years to
ma'am.
come.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We're to the point to where we've heard a lot of great information. Thank you so much, Patty, and thank you to all of your people, and thank you for the ones that are here, and for your expertise in education and your experience that you brought forth. Let's see if we have a motion regarding the LASSO Strong Foundations implementation grant application.
I move to approve the LASSO Strong Foundations Implementation Grant application as presented.
Thank you, Rodney Goodman. Do we have a second? I second. We'll now take a roll call vote. Blair Schrader, absent. Angie Wiley, yes. Cindy Earls?
Yes.
Danny Wheat?
Yes.
Rodney Goodman?
Yes.
Taylor Tidmore?
yes.
Bill Enriquez?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned and the time is 8:23.